Balal's been talking about Dricus for a while, and it seems like he does really want to fight Dricus, as he believes that Dricus is not a good fighter. He believes a lot of these middleweights are not that good, but Dricus has to keep reminding him that there's weight classes for a reason, and the middleweights, being 50 pounds heavier, are larger than the welterweights, and regardless of how good Balal is, Dricus believes he's better, and he's just simply too big for Balal to do anything against in a fight. So the context of this is that Balal was talking about Islam Makhachev going up to 170 pounds, which seems like it's inevitable. He's eventually going to go up to welterweight. Balal doesn't want to get in the way. He wants to defeat Shavkat first, then jump up to the next weight class and allow Islam to reign over the welterweight and lightweight divisions, as he wants to rule over the middleweight division. So in the next year or two, we're probably going to see a lot of weight jumping with these champions.
So like, I would never want to do that. And like, they've helped me so much. So for me, I would rather go up to 185 and let him just take 170 if that's the case. And like, since I've already had to fight my way up to 170 and I've been top 10 guys, like, I'm 2 fights away from being able to challenge that 185 and saying, hey, I want to be double champ.
But Balal hasn't defended his belt yet. He's right that he has built an underrated legacy for himself. Not saying he's like the greatest or anything like that yet, unless he does continue to win. But he's on an 11 unbeaten streak. One of the longest streaks in the UFC right now. He's the welterweight champion, just defeated Leon Edwards, who is arguably one of the greatest welterweights of all time, and defeated top-ranked fighters in Gilbert Burns, although he had one arm. He finished Sean Brady, who now is one of the top-ranked welterweights, Vicente Luque, avenged that loss, Stephen Thompson, Damian Maia. His last 6 wins have been against top-ranked fighters, and one of them a champion. So he's not wrong when he says that he has defeated many high-ranked fighters in the welterweight division, and a couple more wins, and he can go up to the middleweight division. Now, I do think he should get 3 title defenses, as there are a lot of contenders there. Welterweight has the most title challengers lined up than any other weight class. Whoever the welterweight champion is, he's going to be the busiest. You got Shavkat Rakhmonov, Joaquin Buckley, Ian Gary, Jack Della Maddalena, Leon Edwards, Sean Brady, Kamaru Usman. The whole top 7 are almost like in a tournament to get a title shot. But I think the only way the UFC would agree with him fighting for the belt at middleweight is if he vacates his welterweight title.
What do you walk around at weight-wise?
Probably like 190.
So 185 is no problem for you?
Oh, no, 185 wouldn't be no problem. And I train with bigger guys.
Yeah.
So I've felt their strength.
And Balal says that he's 190 pounds. 190 pounds, which is actually lighter than a lot of other welterweights. So him jumping up to middleweight, where he would only have to cut 5 pounds if he stays that same weight, but if he bulks up and tries to increase his strength for the weight class, he might have to drop like 10 pounds or something, right? Which is still not much for a middleweight. A lot of these middleweights are like a 210 to 220 pounds, where Balal might be 200 at the most.
And a lot of... Like, I think 185 is probably the easiest weight class besides Hamzat. Like, when you look at that main event this weekend,
he's an animal, yeah.
You're like, bro, Strickland and Du Plessis suck.
Now, I do see where he's coming from, saying that the best middleweights right now, besides Hamzat, are just not that good. Now, I do think the middleweight division is not that strong when you look at all the other weight classes. Middleweight hasn't really been a strong weight class, other than, I guess, like the post-Silva era, with Wyman, Rockhold, and those guys. And now the weight class is decent, but I see what Balal's saying, that those guys just aren't as good as the welterweights, which they aren't. But the thing that separates them, that Balal is kind of overlooking, is the size difference. Especially for a wrestler to move up, right? Wrestlers moving up are generally not going to be as effective in the heavier weight class because size matters a lot more to a wrestler than it does a striker. A lighter fighter can knock out a heavier fighter, given that they have a speed advantage and the technique in the stand-up. They could be 1 punch away from winning a fight, whereas if you're a wrestler like Belal Muhammad, strength and size are a lot bigger of a factor, especially when you're a 5-round fighter, you know? Trying to throw around a bigger man while he's resisting your takedowns, it's going to impact the gas tank too, right? Dricus has fantastic cardio for a big middleweight, and he has to grapple with bigger opponents. Belal moving up to middleweight, he's got to be able to wrestle with those bigger guys for 5 rounds, as that is his style, right? He has that cardio fighting style.
Like I said, I don't want to discredit Du Plessis. He's awkward, and but he wins a lot out of like heart and cardio. And I mean, I beat him in heart and cardio and skill all day. And he's not one of the biggest guys. Like, he walks around heavy. I think he says he walks around like at 230 or 220. But at the end of the day, when you're weighing in at 185, the next day you're not going to get bigger than 200. So I mean, and I train with guys that are 200 all the time, and I'm not worried about it.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, Dricus does fight on his cardio and his heart, and he is very unorthodox. But to say that he's not that big when he's one of the biggest middleweights, if he's walking around 220 to 230 pounds, and Dricus said he weighs about 212 pounds in the cage as well, when he fought Strickland the first time. To say that he's not that big, I think Belal will be surprised in the fight when he feels feels how big Dricus is. That's a massive difference than 200 pounds, especially after a weight cut. Belal Muhammad might be in the mid to high 190s in the cage. Dricus will most likely be anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds heavier than Belal Muhammad. Now, that's not to say that Belal has no chance. He could beat Dricus, right? He's a champion, cannot underestimate him, right? Maybe his wrestling is so strong and so technical that Dricus can't beat it. It would be a huge accomplishment for Belal Muhammad if he goes up to middleweight and defeats someone like Dricus, but I just don't think so. But what did Dricus have to say about the fight?
Belal Muhammad, I can't even remember the way he fights. I don't know. The man, has he ever finished anyone?
Sean Brady a couple of years ago was one of the few finishes in his current winning streak.
All right. Well, happy for him. No, it's just, I mean, I like how he acts as if he has a choice to ever go up to 185. Like, the UFC will never let him. Like, if he wants to do that, he would have to, abandon his belt. He would give up his belt, vacate, and go up to 185. And there's no way they give him a direct title shot. There's no way. The UFC doesn't even like Belal Muhammad. So what makes him think that he hasn't even defended his belt once? I don't know why he's definitely better on Twitter than he is in fights. I have to say that.
Every time Dricus talks, you just forget how good he is on the mic, saying that UFC doesn't even like the guy. They'll never give him that opportunity. Would they want Shavkat to be the champion over him? Probably, because Shavkat's just more exciting, right? He goes for finishes. He's the exact opposite. Belal has one finish in the UFC against Sean Brady. Shavkat has one decision in the UFC against Ian Gary. They're the complete opposite when it comes to putting on an exciting performance. Decisions could be fun. Yeah, Shavkat's way more exciting than Belal in an entertainment aspect. So maybe they don't like Belal to be champ. Maybe Dricus is right. But the important thing about it is Belal believes it too. Both Dricus and Belal believe that the UFC doesn't like Belal. Belal said that he believes that Dana doesn't like him, and he has like a double standard for Belal.
Are you motivated at all by? I mean, he is on a run, and he does say these things about you in the weight class. If the stars align and this is presented to you, are you intrigued by this matchup at all?
No, I mean that would be unfair.
It would be unfair, you said?
Yeah, if I fight Belal Muhammad, it would be unfair. It would, yeah.
Meaning it would be a very one-sided matchup?
100%. Have you seen the size of the man? What is he gonna do? Is he gonna get somebody to help him? Is he gonna sit on somebody's neck? How is it gonna work? He's the smallest. I couldn't believe that he's at 170 when I saw him. I couldn't believe that he fights at 170.
Just for fun, how do you think that fight goes?
I step on his head and it's over. That's how that fight goes.
And Dricus seemingly shuts down the fight altogether, as Belal's been talking about the fight for like over a year. Dricus says he's not even interested in the fight whatsoever. He doesn't care about it. He thinks it'd be a mismatch. He thinks Belal's way too small. He would step on his head and the fight would be over. And then Belal's an even small welterweight. How is he going to fight a middleweight and beat the champion? But you can never underestimate any fighter at the highest level, regardless if it's Belal Muhammad, a fighter who always goes to a decision, a fighter who seemingly is just too small to jump up another weight class. You can never underestimate fighters at the highest level. And if they ever were to fight, right? Let's say Dricus and Belal just dominate their weight classes, and Belal wants to jump up to middleweight. Dricus would have to treat that fight like he's fighting an actual contender. If he goes into the fight underestimating Belal could absolutely beat him. You can never underestimate a UFC champion in his prime. But Dricus wants the Hamza fight. That's the fight he's interested in. Who also is a former welterweight. Interesting enough, almost all the top guys in middleweight fought in the welterweight division. The Hamza and Dricus fight is probably going to be one of the biggest fights of the year. That is most likely going to be the first one, as Belal fights Shavkat. We'll see who Islam fights next. And then maybe, if Islam wants to jump up to welterweight, Belal will vacate the title and fight Dricus. And I do think if Belal defeats Shavkat, and especially if he makes it look easy, if he wants to vacate the title, the UFC will allow him to fight for the middleweight belt 100%. If he can beat Shavkat, who seems like the fighter that the UFC wants to be champion, if he could shut that down and prove again that he's the best welterweight in the world, in the UFC's eyes, I don't think they'll say no to him if he wants to jump up to middleweight, if only he vacates his title first for Islam. So it's an interesting year with these champions, who most of them want to jump up weight classes and become a double champ. This video is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, and now an official partner with the UFC. And just like the athletes fight in the cage, Morgan & Morgan will also fight for their clients. Morgan & Morgan is giving away 2 tickets to the Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev fight in Las Vegas, plus $2,000, an amazing card with great fights, and many others throughout the whole card. You get a chance to win by going to morganufc.com, a dream for any UFC fan. And all you have to do is click the link in the description below or head to morganufc.com/weasel to enter the contest and to see if you can win. It'd be awesome to see you guys there.